became Australia's most notorious prison, a desolate outpost for 12,000 convicts.
There's a feeling here. It's a real feeling of sadness. It's here during the day, but it's here at night as well. There was a lot of tragedy went on here.
Exactly the kind of place you'd expect to find the unexpected and the unexplained. Like this mysterious apparition, captured on film by a Victorian couple one weekend last year. Their photograph may just show one of the ghosts of Port Arthur, a ghost we'll be telling you more about later. Today, the ruins of the colony seem to reach up to the heavens, but back in the convict days, Port Arthur was more like hell. Where once the condemned wasted away, now the curious can wander. You can still see the solitary cells where men were confined until they went mad. Some say the tortured souls of prisoners are still trapped within these forbidding and windswept walls. For more than 100 years, there have been stories of the lost returning to haunt the living. As a guide at Port Arthur, Pat Perry heard them all. But in 1989, she had her own encounter with the unknown.
I was sitting in the tea room adjacent to the main room in the museum, filling in my worksheet for the week, and another guide was sitting a few feet away from me on the same bench. And he said, that ashtray just moved. And I said, don't be silly. And just as I said it, it moved along slowly, closer in my direction, and then it turned a right angle. And I immediately put my hand under the bench, thinking it was going to topple off, but it didn't. It just balanced on the end of the bench.
Leslie Kirby had her brush with the ghosts of Port Arthur about the same time.
One afternoon, I was sitting in the medical officer's house. I was doing some research for some people sitting by the fireside, and I became aware of the sound of children talking, laughing as it sounded.
A century ago, the doctors, their wives and children lived here. The only bright spot in this depressing and God-forsaken place. Perhaps it was the echo of those earlier times that filtered down to Leslie Kirby.
To this day, I can't explain where that sound came from. It was very clear, very distinct, just as I'm speaking now, but just no explanation.
Then there's Nanny's room, where the woman who cared for the first commandant's children lived and died mysteriously. Today, it's just as it was in the 1800s, even down to Nanny's old rocking chair.
That's another unusual thing about this house. There's been 2 occasions that I know of that the chair has been seen rocking by itself.
Andrew Simmons is another guide at the penal settlement. He's helped compile a book on the ghosts of Port Arthur, but not even he can explain the strange things that happen here in Nanny's room. For instance, the trouble many tourists have with their cameras. Flashlights that don't function, shutters that simply refuse to click, and strangest of all, these apparitions. On display in Nanny's room are 2 examples. Photographs taken by visitors, and in each case, there's a mysterious flash of light through the frame. Thousands of tourists pass through Nanny's room every year. Some say the prints are ghostly, others are dubious. At first, Melbourne couple David and Simone Shaw were among the disbelievers, but soon they were to be converted.
I said to David, "I'll take a photo of me and the ghost," just jokingly. And I put my arm around the rocking chair and he took the photo, and then straight away I took his photo standing next to the rocking chair and the mantelpiece. The last thing we expected was something to come up, and we were totally shocked when you know, the photos were developed.
This was the photograph that shocked Simone and her husband. There, right through the centre of frame, is that flash. But the Shaws are convinced that there is more to their photograph than meets the eye.
It's the face of a lady. You can tell it's a lady because it sort of looks like she's got, well, it sounds dumb, but lipstick on. The lips are really prominent.
Now, at first glance, you may not be able to make out the woman's face. But when the image is enhanced, perhaps it will become clearer. A ghostly image or the camera playing tricks? The Shaws couldn't decide, so Simone's father, Jack van der Corput, decided to get an independent analysis. He had both the camera and negatives checked by photographic experts at Melbourne University.
It's a very ordinary camera, and the photographs on either side of this negative are just perfectly normal. So if any light had come into the camera, then it would have been also shown on the other two negatives. The experts have said that they've got absolutely no explanation why that image appeared on the photograph, or actually on the negative.